My name is Gordon Sweeney, and I've been working as a senior business analyst for over 15 years. I had been waiting to take off for a well-needed vacation for quite some time now, but something important would always come up. I had been working non-stop for over a year when I finally decided it was time for an overdue break. So I cleared up my schedule for the whole week. I was finishing up my very last day, just before I was going to set off for my very own piece of heaven, something that I had built on my very own 20 acres of property just a few hours north of New York City. But just before I made my way to the elevator, I thought I saw something falling from the sky. I didn't really get a good enough look as to what it was or what it was going to do as the elevator doors began to close. I didn't get much time to wonder either, as I soon felt a rumble working its way up the frame of the whole building. I could hear my coworkers running outside, screaming and trying to find cover. A cover from what? That I could not make out. But the panic and terror in their voices was distinctly palpable. In fact, I was even surprised that no one had bothered taking cover in the elevator. I even thought of stopping it once, but then got rid of the thought. If everyone was trying to get away, I was lucky that I was already halfway out. I'd started going down from the 17th floor, but as the elevator was passing through the 12th, it began to stop. I thought that maybe somebody had intentionally stopped it to get on, but I was soon proven wrong as the doors of the elevator did not open, and no one stepped in. The elevator itself had suddenly come to a halt. I tried pressing buttons and even tried to pry the doors open, but to no avail. I started shouting for help for someone on the other side of the elevator, but got nothing in return. It was as if no one was out there anymore, or at least no one out there could hear me. I started hearing the sound of glass breaking from around the building, just outside the elevator I was trapped in. I began to feel a bit more panic. I knew then and there that something extremely terrible had definitely happened outside. I hadn't even gotten my bearings back when suddenly the elevator started dropping rapidly. I saw the floors passing by in a blur, and I knew the elevator was going to drop down to the garage floor and turn me into mush. I tried holding onto the rails and the walls, but I knew it was not going to help me when I literally was about to drop to my death. But thankfully, just before the elevator crashed, the emergency brakes locked up, bringing it to an abrupt stop, making me fall to my ass. Talk about shock. Whew. I almost messed my pants before the brakes kicked in. It was the scariest ride of my life. That freefall had made my heart beat 1,000,000 times a minute. Just then, the lights of the elevator went out with a loud bang somewhere in the outside, leaving me locked in without any power to open the doors. And with it went my last hope. Hours passed by as I stayed locked up in that small cubicle. I'd even started having difficulty breathing. I tried opening the doors with my hands again and again, but with no luck. I tried to rip out the rods at the sides of the elevator walls, but that also ended up in a dead end. They were really strongly attached, and I had nothing to aid me but my bare hands, and they proved to be of no help. I had almost given up and just left my fate in the hands of God when suddenly I heard some sounds on the other side of the door. Someone out there was definitely talking. But who? I couldn't make any sense out of what they were saying, and whoever they were, they definitely were not there to try and get me out. I yelled at the top of my lungs to get their attention and ask for help. I was hoping they could find something to plow the doors open with, but no one seemed to have heard me, and even if they did hear me, no one paid me any heed. My screaming and banging on the door again went unanswered. Soon the voices just drifted away from the elevator, and everything went silent once again. I stopped the shouting and banging and slid down the wall to the floor, hopeless. Just then, something heavy fell outside and against the doors of the elevator, denting the door, opening it up just a little bit, letting in a little light. I jumped up at the chance and started pushing open the doors with renewed vigor. Soon enough, I had just enough room to actually make my way out, only to see dust and rubble everywhere in the parking lot. I hurriedly made my way out of the garage and outside the building, wondering what had gone down. Once outside, I saw that, to my absolute horror, the whole city looked almost blown up, with not a single person in sight. I mean, I had guessed the destruction part by now, but to see that there was no one just running around out there, even hurt or crying and screaming, was puzzling to say the least. I walked through the streets of Lower Manhattan only to see a multitude of destroyed cars, crushed and unrecognizable. There was no one even looking out the broken windows of the tall buildings, at least the ones that were still intact. Most of the once grand buildings were now mere wreckage. Treading through the ruins was a pain, so I stuck to the open roads, looking for any other soul out there. I tried using my phone, only to find that there was no network or even internet signals. I walked around for over an hour, calling out and hoping for anyone to show up, when I came across a man standing in the middle of the street. He was looking up into the sky, twitching and nodding back and forth, mumbling random words and completely lost in his own world. I yelled at him to see if he was okay or if he needed any help. I was also hoping he could enlighten me on what the heck had gone down in this whole damn city, but I got no response in return. So I walked up to him and grabbed him by the shoulder. He turned around abruptly with his eyes rolled back in his head, his mouth gaping wide open, saliva dripping out the corner. I let him go and stumbled back a bit. Suddenly he started screaming and gurgling, grabbing his hands towards me. I backed away even more as he suddenly started chasing me. I began running, ducking around the cars on the road, wondering what the hell was going on. As I was running and trying to get away from whatever that was, I started hearing honking. I looked up to see a truck racing down the street at full speed. He hit the strange man, killing him instantly upon impact. I abruptly stopped in my tracks. The doors swung open and a man started yelling at me.
"Well, don't just stand there! Get the hell in here, you idiot!"
I jumped in the passenger seat of the truck and we drove away. The guy, named Mario, finally told me what the hell had happened while I was trapped in the elevator. According to him, a comet had fallen from the sky, destroying the city and making the people turn crazy, attacking anyone in sight. When I asked why he hadn't gone crazy, he told me his theory that everyone who was outside and was exposed to the comet, or the light emitted from it, went insane. Lucky for me, I was in the garage working on my truck when it all happened, so I didn't see any of the shit going down. But we need to leave the city if we want to survive another night. There might be some radiation and I don't know how that's gonna change us. And also, the weird zombie men. Gotta get away from them too. I agreed and told him to make his way up to my cabin outside the city. That would work, but I don't have enough gas to make it till there. And food too, I suddenly realized. I mean, I have some there, but we don't know how long this is gonna go on or how long we're gonna be stuck in there. So we should probably store up on that too, you know? Just to be sure. Next plan of action decided, we set out to work on that. We came across many other cars parked on the way, some intact, some destroyed. So we would jump out and check each and every vehicle. Mario would pull some gas from the cars while I would ransack the vehicle and see what other useful stuff it might have, edible and non-edible. In our little treasure hunt, we came across many horrific scenes too. There were many dead bodies lying on the ground in varying forms of destruction. We could even see some bodies that were definitely an aftermath of a human attack. It seemed there had been other unaffected people, but the infected had gotten to them before they could flee. There were so many sights of blood and gore. But we had to keep going. We did not have time to feel pity or guilt, lest we end up just like them. We were going through one of the abandoned cars parked on the bridge when I happened to look in the rearview mirror. There were over a dozen people running towards us, screaming and growling. We rushed back to the truck, leaving the car behind. They were almost upon us, just some meters away. By the time we reached the truck, Mario threw the 2 gas jugs we had collected thus far into the back, and we raced down the bridge, narrowly escaping the infected and dodging other broke-down vehicles along the way. Whew, that was one close call. As the night started fading, we had gotten pretty short on gas, and we needed to fill up. We came across an abandoned gas station, so we pulled over to gas up and stretch our legs. We also took the time to snatch everything we needed from the shops there. It ended up being a pretty great stop for us. As I was loading up the truck with the items we had nicked from the shelves, I looked over and saw a man walking out of the bushes by the opposite side of the road with his shotgun drawn on us.
Toss me your car keys, or I'll drop you both right here, now.
He must have been waiting for someone to come by the gas station, and instead of interrupting us beforehand, he let us fill up the truck for him. We backed away from him and the truck, and Mario threw the truck keys towards him. They fell on the ground just a little bit away. We watched as the man stepped over to pick up the keys as we backed up. I was thinking of trying to reason with him that we were in this together anyway, so maybe we should just work together instead of turning on each other. But I didn't get the time to reason with him because as soon as he bent down to pick up the keys, 3 infected burst from the bushes and jumped upon him. He let go of his gun in a panic as the infected started to bite and punch him. He tried to reach back for his gun, but before he could, Mario had grabbed the shotgun.
Please, help me, please!
The man screamed at us, begging us. But instead of stopping there and waiting to be devoured by the infected, we rushed back to the truck. Before we raced out of there though, Mario looked over to the man and spit out the window.
I'm not about to waste my ammo on you.
He shouted back at him.
You're already a lost case anyway.
With that, we sped out of there and towards our destination. This time around, we were not stopping anywhere along the way. After another 2 hours or so, we had reached my property. We pulled up to the cabin and Mario stepped out in shock.
What kind of cabin have you built here, man? This is more like a big bank vault or something.
That was completely understandable. I was pretty proud of my creation too. Well, I knew how busy I could get and I knew I wasn't going to be here as much as I wanted to, so I wanted it to be really sturdy and durable for the long term, you know? I also wanted to keep out all the local riffraffs out of the cabin. Human and animal alike, I explained with just a touch of pride. I walked up and placed my hand on a small screen by the front door. The doors quietly opened up for us. As soon as I stepped inside, all the low dimmed lights turned on too. Mario gave a low hum of appreciation as I explained to him how all the systems in there were completely automatic and how most of it followed my command. We decided to crash for the night. The whole day had been a little too much. All the walking, screaming, and running around had taken a toll on me, and I was pretty tired now that the adrenaline had worn off and the whole wanting to save my life thing wasn't on my mind as much. Mario completely agreed with that. So we had a quick dinner of burgers we had nicked earlier, some beer, and turned in for the night. We slept in for quite a long time the next morning and woke up only when it was almost noon. My belly, rumbling in hunger, was what had woken me up. We made a quick work of breakfast and then started discussing what we should do next. Thankfully, my whole bunker was on solar power, so we didn't have to worry about power that much, but even with what we had, we were unable to use anything for communication. There was still no network and no internet signals. No radios or television seemed to be working either. We concurred that there must have been some issue in the signal receptors or something, so we had no information on the outside world for now. I mean, we could stay in there for quite some time, but that was not a long-term solution. We couldn't just stay there for the rest of our lives. We didn't know how many cities were affected by this disaster or how many people were left alive. With no solutions coming to mind, however, we decided to cut short our thinking for the time being, as we realized we were almost out of wood. I grabbed us both an axe each, and we decided to chop up some wood in the forest. We went out in search of dry wood, and about a half-mile in, we came across a tree that had fallen over and would be perfect for cutting up into logs, so we got to work. We were so immersed in our task that we had no idea of the danger that was about to befall us. 4 infected suddenly jumped out from the trees and were almost upon us. Their sudden shouts were the only thing that alerted us just in time. I hurriedly ducked an outstretched hand that was about to grab me and swung my axe, cutting the arm from the body and nicked him in the gut. By then another one was upon me. This time I aimed straight for the neck. I was getting ready to aim for another one when about a dozen others suddenly started appearing. So instead I turned and started running back to the cabin. I looked back and saw Mario was right behind me. We weaved through the trees, trying to lose them, and might have been successful, because once we reached the cabin, no one was behind us. We got in and locked the door. After catching my breath for a minute, I decided to look outside and observe the situation, only to see more commotion going on outside. There were 3 more. This time, non-infected humans, being chased down by the infected. They were running right towards the cabin, waving their hands at us, screaming for help. I opened the door and Mario stepped out, firing off his shotgun, causing one of the infected to fall. We quickly shut the door back up as soon as everyone made it in. There were 2 women and a man amongst the newcomers. I left them to catch their breath and then brought them some food and water. They almost jumped me when they saw the food and hurriedly started eating, as if they hadn't eaten in days. After they had calmed down a little bit and had eaten to their heart's content, I asked them how they came to be here.
Our car ran out of gas just a little bit away from the trail. And then we saw the truck parked there, so we just followed the trail and here we are now,
replied the man after taking a big gulp of water. Soon enough, everyone was left to their own devices as they walked around trying to recover from all the running. A little while later, Mario hastily walked up to where we were and asked,
Where's the other lady that was with you?
We all turned around, trying to look for her when she stepped into the room. The woman was showing us her arm, revealing that she had already been infected. Mario stepped up with a shotgun drawn out and aimed at her, ready to take her down, but we didn't get the time to do so. Just around the corner, the door swung open to reveal more than over a dozen infected standing there. We all looked at each other and knew that this was it.